Happy Travel Tuesday, everyone, and welcome to another episode of our award-winning podcast, Smart People Travel Wise, a platform where we discuss all things about travel. I'm your host, Tennie Sumague, coming to you from my hometown of Woodside, Queens, New York City. And if you are tuning in for the first time, I've been a travel advisor for almost a year, a teacher for nearly 20 years. I love travel. I've done it since I was 4 years old, and this podcast is mainly for you for me and my fellow guests to educate you all to travel wise. Now, today's episode, we're going to tap into how travel and the economy work hand in hand. Plus, we're going to also discuss how travel can make you a bit richer. It's up to you how you want to define rich or richer. It could be experience, it could be money. And I have my fellow guest, who I will introduce to you in a bit, who is one of my mentors in the media world and kind of the inspiration why I actually do this podcast. But before we get started, I like to remind everybody, if you are watching this live, hashtag live. And if you are watching this on replay, hashtag replay. Make sure you tell us where you're coming from so we can acknowledge all of you. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and YouTube. You could also listen on Amazon Fire, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, or simply download the PHLV radio app available on all iOS and Android phones. So I'd like to welcome back Thomas I. Likness, a media professional with over 50 years, or maybe I should just keep it at 50 years of experience as a radio journalist and a writer, and one of my mentors in the media world, because he's one of the best I've ever worked with in my 7+ years working freelancing as a media journalist. So we're going to tap in first on travel and the economy and smash those heart buttons, and let's welcome back Thomas I. Likness, coming from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Tennie, and it's a pleasure to be here again. I always enjoy having a chance to chat with you, and I always walk away learning something as well.
Oh yeah, and I think our conversations can go probably more than an hour. But we only have about 50 minutes to discuss what we're going to talk about. First is the travel and the economy. Now, travel is a big part of the economy of anywhere, US, Canada, all over the world. And I just want to ask you first, your opinion, like how does it impact, I'll say it from your neck of the woods, how does it impact the economy there in Canada?
Well, it obviously depends where you are. Now, you get into the national parks in the mountains. That's what's driving the economy almost 100%. I'm thinking of the scenic areas such as Jasper and Banff in the Rocky Mountains in Alberta. Then you get areas like Niagara Falls, which we kind of share with you in New York State there. Niagara Falls, again, there's a city that is pretty much completely tourist driven. So depending where you are, travel can be a nice addition to the economy, or perhaps the total economy. And that's where the pandemic really hurt a lot of communities. Again, some of those tourist areas, much the same as you would find in the United States. You get areas like Miami, where tourism kind of drives the economy down there. Orlando, places like that. So yeah. Travel very, very definitely contributes to the gross domestic product.
And then we saw in the pandemic, and I was actually, a friend of mine was visiting over the weekend from San Francisco, and she had said San Francisco has been badly hurt by COVID. Their tourism hasn't been the same. Whereas here in New York, it's picking up, it's reviving. It was kind of not, I wouldn't say sad, but it felt weird when during the pandemic, Times Square was pretty empty, but now it's back in, back where it's been crazy. crowded. I was actually in Times Square at Sephora shopping for my makeup for for media.
And definitely, travel is coming back. The U.S. Travel Association says there's already been an increase in travel spending. The latest figures they had was for the month of February, and domestic travel is up 9%. The top destination domestically in the United States, New York City.
Right. No,
Yep.
I've had people come up to me and ask me, "Oh, I'm coming to New York. I wanted," and it's whether they're foodie travelers or first-time travelers or they're coming back again. I think a lot of it is because some people are still scared to travel internationally. So I would say here in the United States, it could be because of money reasons or just their fear of, like getting COVID, in another country and so forth. But yes, it's funny that you said New York is the most popular travel destination domestically, because I mean, it's crowded. I'm sure it's. And it's not only for just seeing your Times Square, the Brooklyn Bridge, Statue of Liberty. A lot of people are coming to New York because they see things on Netflix or on Instagram, and they see, oh, where is this this foodie place, or they go to Chinatown.
There's just a wealth of museums. My sister goes there from time to time, and she tells me about the museums they'll visit, or some of the clubs they'll visit. In terms of, she's a big jazz fan, and
Oh yeah.
some tremendous jazz clubs you can drop in there. She used to go see one where Les Paul was playing, and Les would just interact with the audience, sit down at your table sometimes. So yeah, there's just a wealth of things to do in New York City. You name it, it's there.
Yeah, no, my friend came over to the weekend and she was saying she actually bought a place by the West End, 71st Street, kind of by Central Park West. And she's also, she works for eBay, but her hobby is she loves writing. And she's, sometimes when she's kind of feeling, I would say, distressed or just needs to get away from the hustle bustle of working in Silicon Valley, go to another hustle and bustle city where she says, like, I just need to be in a place. She loves to write, so her place or her creative moment is just writing by Central Park, which is actually one of the most beautiful places, beautiful parks, I guess, to get your creative juices going. I know because I just walked there last Friday after 10 years. I haven't been there in so long, but I just was just walking on a beautiful spring day on my day off from work on Friday. And I was just like, wow, like, I love New York. I can't believe I live here. And yeah, so many tourists internationally, domestically go here because there's just so much, there's so much to do here.
Well, you've got a whole country full of destinations down there. And again, the Travel Association is saying people are this year they're making, despite the economic conditions, despite inflations, they're making leisure travel a priority.
I will agree with that. Yes. And I think I'm getting a lot of clients coming up to me and saying that, I actually want to travel. My specialty is land and cruise tours in Europe and Asia and Bermuda. And a lot of them are saying, I need to get out. It's been 2 years since I've traveled internationally. I don't care the cost. It's just, there's this whole term, Tom, travel is therapy.
Well, yeah, it is. It is. And why do people travel?
That's a good question. Are you asking me that?
Well, I don't know. Do you know? Why do you think people travel?
I'll tell you why I travel. And I just had my spring break. I had 10 days off. Okay, Tom, I traveled just within the vicinity of the East Coast. So my first week, I actually went to Connecticut. which is a two-hour drive, Connecticut, Massachusetts. And because we've done work for Eagle Broadcasting Corporation, or EBC. You are very familiar, or for those who are familiar with my sports journalism work. I been wanting to do this. It's been on my bucket list. And funny thing is, yesterday, I should say Monday, was National Bucket List Day. And one on my bucket list that I've always wanted to do is to go to Springfield, Massachusetts, and go to the National Basketball Hall of Fame. And I will say.
So you've mentioned one reason why people travel. A bucket list trip. The top reason, visiting family and friends.
Yes, and I was visiting family, and I should say we're friends who are family, or kind of like connected because we have the same relative, but we're not related. You know how Filipinos work. We're all family. I mean, you're my family too, and you're not even Filipino.
I'm not.
You're married to a Filipino.
Not number two reason, and it kind of fits in again with what you did. There's a road trip. Number three, people want to take a beach vacation. Now, you got lots of beaches in New York. Does that even count as a vacation when you go to the beach?
Beaches in New York, I wouldn't want. Well, if I wanted to go to the beach, I would go probably out to my neighboring state, New Jersey, the Jersey Shore. MTV Situation, JWoww, Snoopy. Or I would go out either Connecticut has beautiful beaches, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and also out in Long Island. If you're in Montauk, I would say the Hamptons. I haven't been there yet. But usually, or there's even Coney Island in Brooklyn, and some people I actually love going there. I mean, I used to work close to Coney Island, and after work, I would just drive there and not even I would just look at the beach and see the birds flying. I wouldn't even swim. It's just a matter that I was sitting in the boardwalk, and and I just wanted to hear the waves crashing.
So why else do people travel? Well,
I think also, and I'm going to mention this because this is in a lot of bucket lists. This place that's in your territory, or I should say province, the Canadian Rockies, Banff, Jasper, and a lot of them, especially adventure tourists who are adventurous, I should say.
Yes.
That's on their bucket list. And that's also been on my bucket list too, because I love mountains and lakes. And a lot of it is because, people want to go there because of the drive, the quaint, the just being in a quaint place where, they stare at was it Lake Moraine, the one with the lake overlooking
Moline Lake. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I see all those pictures on a lot of people's Instagrams when they go, and a lot of my Canadian friends who live in Toronto, that's, they, when they take their families, when their kids are on vacation, on summer vacation, that's the first place they think of taking their family to Alberta, in your neck of the woods.
It's a 5-hour plane ride
from
2 time zones away.
Oh, you mean from Toronto?
Toronto to Banff. Yep. Yeah, that's so yeah, there's all kinds of reasons people travel. As you mentioned, the outdoor adventures. Up here, a lot of people like to go camping. I don't understand why. I camp primarily in a Holiday Inn, but tents just don't do it. But a lot of people like that. So these are the kind of the getaways, and with camping vacations, of course, how does that help the economy? I mean, they're just in a park for free? Well, not entirely, because a lot of them have a tent trailer or a holiday trailer, or perhaps a full-sized recreational vehicle. All of these things, again, contribute to the economy.
Yeah,
Um,
and there's so many. I mean, there's so many ways of traveling now. Now there's like food and culinary, and that's also an economic boom in the restaurant business. I would say, we tapped into leisure travel. There's so many also new attractions that so many cities offer. Like here in New York, and I haven't been here yet. I haven't gone to the Edge, or the Vanderbilt, the Summit, I think that's what it's, and that's by Hudson Yards. And a lot of people come there, then they have all these photos, and they ask me, I was like, you go to more of the attractions than I do. And then, you mentioned the museums, and the funny thing that you mentioned, the culture part of it, and that's also, I also wanted to brush in that after Connecticut, the following weekend, I went to Washington, D.C. And I had to, I was trying not to do the whole touristy thing that, go to all the monuments. I mean, but I had to.
well, why not? I mean, it's
I had to. That's part of history.
it's part of history. It's part of your country.
Yes.
And that's again how travel can enrich you.
Right.
It's one thing to look at a picture, but it's another thing to see it in real life.
I agree with that. And it was a beautiful springtime when I was in the nation's capital. And I went there. I was at Tidal Basin on a Saturday. It was the last week of the Cherry Blossom Festival. Now, if you go to Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, one of the best times to go, or there's the signature time to go to Washington, D.C. is when when the cherry blossoms bloom. Now, this year it actually bloomed early, but the Cherry Blossom Festival is one of their signature events that runs, I believe, like from the time they blossom until the tail end of spring break, which is around the second week of April. But it was very, I went there because of that, but then I got to, like, just walking around, I got to experience, I'm walking on the basin and going to the the Thomas Jefferson Memorial. Then all of a sudden, this marching band from Pennsylvania, they're Blue Ridge Marching Band from, I don't know exactly where in Pennsylvania, but the marching band came together and they just started playing all these patriotic songs in front of the memorial. And then, it's overlooking the Washington Monument, and they're playing Amazing Grace, America, My Country 'Tis of Thee. So it had that kind of, that's kind of like why people should do travel, and brings like money to the economy, because it's the experience. It makes you richer. And of all places to experience that, the nation's capital.
A little bit of patriotism there, and the right kind of patriotism, I might add.
Yeah.
Some things have changed with travel post-pandemic.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
For example, mid-range hotels. The kind cheap guys like me stay. I'm going to have to rethink that, because a lot of them have dropped the free breakfast. Some have even dropped housekeeping services.
I would agree with that. No, the housekeeping.
All those upgrades you used to bargain for, whether it be a first class seat on the airplane, or an upgrade on your rental car, something like that, not so common anymore. You'll really struggle to find any deal. Tip on rental cars: I used to always rent the smallest car I could find, and quite often they didn't have it, so they'd bump me up to the next largest. Or sometimes even better. But, all of those things have changed post-pandemic. Tourism operators, transportation companies, hotels, they're feeling the economy just the same as we are. So it is costing more, but despite the costs, people are still finding value in travel. And in the short term, economists are saying it'll be domestic travel that kickstarts the American tourism industry. International travel, it's coming back. It's coming back, but it's much slower. Although Asian travel has really boomed.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that thanks to K-pop and K-beauty and anime and also one of the places it's good that we're bringing up Asian travel is I'm seeing a lot also because this also for those who are interested in luxury travel, a lot of them are looking into going into Vietnam. Why? Because people can afford luxury travel in Vietnam, places like Vietnam, Thailand, even the Philippines, because of the currency, and that's how travel there is booming, and also the fact that they want the experience. And I'll tap into like Philippines, and this is amazing. Even though I've always wanted to go to Palawan, Tom,
It's a
but
beautiful place. It
it's a
is.
beautiful place, and I'm happy to see that Travel and Leisure is mentioning it, the Philippines, Palawan, Cebu, beaches in Cebu as one of the most beautiful beaches in the world. And I'm kind of sad about it because now it's like, oh wow, the economy like now it's going to be very crowded there by the time I go there. But
The other increase in Asian travel, interestingly enough, is a lot of people haven't had a chance to go home for a couple of years.
right,
Like
yeah,
my wife and I, we would go every 2 years to the Philippines. 2019 was the last time we were there. We'll be going back next year. There's a family event that we want to take in, but yeah, that is really driving the increase. A lot of our friends, they're going back because finally they can go back. There's no restrictions on travel. There's no quarantine. Remember
right.
the days of the 2-week quarantine? Well,
Yes.
it's
Oh,
gone.
and Philippines, yeah, too. Like and they don't pay for the hotel. It has to come
Oh,
out of your pocket. So, for you to quarantine, and then you're able to go to the mall or wherever you want to go, out there. And it's funny that you mentioned that people are, you're planning to go back to the Philippines next year. I mean, I recently just went to the Philippines. After going to Seoul, it's one of those. If I go to an Asian country, I have to visit my own country.
well, it's only a short trip.
Yeah, it was true. I was 5 days in Seoul and 5 days in Bataan, which is about 2 hours north of Manila, and uh, and that was the first time I've been to the Philippines in over since the pandemic. I did go to the Philippines and Singapore and Malaysia right before the tail end when the pandemic happened, and then it's been kind of that thirst and that longing. And you mentioned because of family. We haven't. I haven't seen my relatives there in over it's been what 2-3 years, and it was a really great reunion. To see them for the first time since the pandemic hit. I am going to go back because you had mentioned, yes, a lot of things have changed with the economy in the travel industry. And I'm going to mention, because I know you mentioned about Holiday Inn and they don't serve their free breakfast, right? But you know who still serves free breakfast? Hilton, Hampton Inn, and Embassy Suite.
Okay, I'm in. I'm in.
And if you actually travel outside, and this is why I love international travel over domestic travel. When I have the funds to, their breakfast buffet, and I have mentioned this, and I put this on my Instagram. If you want to follow me, to our listeners, you can follow me on Instagram at my Tennie, DESTENNIE. I recently posted a video. When I went to Italy last year, I was forced to eat 3 kinds of Nutella, or else they were gonna kick me out of the buffet room if I didn't try the 3 kinds of Nutella. Can you imagine you're staying in a hotel and you're forced to eat 3 kinds of Nutella?
Oh.
Yeah, and that's the great thing. I always mention, like, yeah, the international travel space is very unique. I mean, also you're giving, you as the consumer, you're also kind of, I like to say giving charity to the country, making their economy boom. Um, for example, Italy, that's one of their main, tourism is one of their main source. Is that, I don't know if that's the correct term, Tom? Like, is that source of like livelihood, or part of the important part? Tourism is an important part of their economy. Um, and they were also badly hit too, with the pandemic too, and they had all these restrictions. But now, I just checked because I had a client who was interested in also in traveling to Rome, and I was like, wow, like packages are basically sold out, and she was asking this for like September, and I was like, that's how travel is back.
Yep. Yeah, no, it definitely is. But there's again, the deals are not there like they used to be. One of the other things, and it's the bane of all travelers, is airlines and the airports, and they're struggling. They're truly struggling. They haven't got enough people. There's a lot of flight cancellations because they simply don't have a crew. A lot of flight delays, and a lot of that's due to not enough air traffic controllers. So it's a really complex problem, particularly in North America. Just trying to get people from A to B via an airplane, not like what it used to be. And if your flight is delayed or canceled, even worse, chances of getting onto another flight quickly are nil, because those flights are all booked or overbooked. We've had cases up here in Canada, people waiting 5 or 6 days. They end up taking the bus.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because they can't get a flight.
And a lot of it, yeah. Oh, and this is important. I'm glad that you brought it to the whole airline industry. And this is where us as travel advisors, we actually encourage our clients to get travel insurance, because the importance, as you mentioned, you hit it on the spot, Tom, cancellations, and then your people are being forced to take buses, or maybe walk 1,000 miles. I mean, can you imagine having to have your flight canceled, and you don't have like the insurance to cover, that's the purpose of travel insurance, that covers the whole cancellation, and that I would say people are very not educated on. But the campaign of travelers, yeah, and I went to I was at the Travel Adventure Show about this was back in February, and I'm not sure if you've ever heard of the award-winning journalist Peter Greensburg, and I had the pleasure of meeting him. He does his travel. I think he's currently at CBS, but he's had pretty much your level of experience working in not CNBC, NBC and CBS as a journalist, as a political journalist. Actually, that's where he started his career, and then kind of segued that into travel. And he mentioned, that the need of travel insurance is because people need to know that the industry right now, the airline industry is kind of up and down. There's shortage. You have chances of getting your flight either canceled and so forth. So that's the importance why we need before we the travel insurance is the most important part of what you need to purchase before you head out. And there's also, Tom, you have to also read the country's restrictions.
Well, yeah. The other thing that goes hand in hand with the travel insurance is medical insurance, because things happen.
Right.
Things happen in a foreign country. treatment could be very expensive, depending
Mhm.
where you're going. I mean, if I travel to the U.S., yeah, I make sure my healthcare is topped up because breaking a leg down there, I don't know, it's somewhere somewhere way above $15,000. Maybe 15,000 is where it starts.
Mhm.
You know, have a heart attack or something. Uh, yeah, you go broke on your
No,
vacation.
that, and mishaps happen in
Yeah.
especially when you travel internationally. And I will tell you one mishap. This happened maybe like 15 years ago. I went to the Philippines and I ate a really bad siopao. And I had food poisoning actually from it. And the worst part, I had that siopao from on my way from Manila to Bangkok. And when I went to Thailand and I was only in Bangkok for 3 days, I had a stomach ache.
I had something similar happen in the Philippines. Went to see a doctor, which cost me the equivalent of, I never turned it into my medical insurance. It was under $10 Canadian for the doctor who gave me a medication and then said, make sure you drink 2 bottles of RC Cola a day for a week. And that
Mhm.
took care of whatever parasite I had managed to pick up.
Yeah, and I think also we if people don't read beforehand, or and this is why I promote that it's important to have a travel advisor, especially in a destination where they're very familiar with. Having a travel advisor will tell you things like, okay, if you're going to, like, for example, we're talking about the Philippines. We know, Tom and I, we both know that you don't drink the tap water there.
Yep.
Number one, you have to be careful what you eat. Street food,
Street food, and my wife won't even let me look at it.
don't even look at it. Well, yeah, my relatives say don't even look at it. I've only experienced that when in Manila, but I've eaten street food in Davao and it's phenomenal. And I've no no stomach aches there. And those are the two things they're gonna. You have to also know, like, the you have to take sanitary precautions too, wherever you travel, and because your stomach might not take in, say, the water or the oil, and then you're gonna wind up in the hospital or something.
Well,
With,
the other thing down there, well, anywhere you go away from home is, to a degree, the bugs, the diseases are different. And what somebody who lives there might have immunity to, you may not, because you
Mhm.
don't live there. You've never been exposed to it. So again, you got to take precautions. My wife is always terrified of mosquitoes because in the Philippines, mosquitoes carry things that we don't have up here.
Mhm.
So she's always got repellent, that kind of stuff. But
See, and that's another thing. It's funny. Your wife carries repellent. It's funny that I have to put that on my list of things if I ever go to the Philippines or even Asia during the summer, because there's
and
a
and
lot of
and,
mosquitoes.
and definitely the other thing is make sure you're appropriately vaccinated.
Hmm.
There are some countries actually that do require, but you can check international travel sites as to what the recommended vaccines are. Certainly, you'd want to, no matter wherever you go, you should be up to date on hepatitis.
Yeah, and if for those who are interested in going to this Amazon, Brazil, and I had someone who specializes in Rio de Janeiro tourism a couple months ago. He had mentioned that when you travel to Brazil and you want to do an Amazon tour, you have to get, before you enter the country, you have to get, I think, several vaccinations, to enter the jungle. And that's the same thing also in Africa too. You
Yep.
need, I think, a malaria vaccination. There's a bunch of vaccinations, and it varies in different countries. So those
Yeah.
are those are some tips that travelers need to know, well, whatever destination you go to, you have to make sure you check, the tourism sites to see if there's any other requirements. And that also goes to, like, if some countries, you need to enter with a visa.
Oh, yes. Yeah. You want to make sure you have the appropriate paperwork, because if you don't, you could wind up in trouble, or you could wind up on the next flight back to where you came from.
Right. Now, I'm going to go back because we had talked about why do people travel, and then we're going to segue into, like, the whole travel makes you rich, and that could be rich monetary. What is it? What does travel makes you rich mean? Like, there's so many ways of defining that too. So, when you hear that term, Tom, like, and it goes with why people travel, and they want to enrich, I should say, the experience and explore new surroundings, but also you meet people.
Well, you meet people, you meet different cultures, you expand your horizons. People have become so insular in North America, that anybody who looks the least bit different, they're terrified of them. They've got all kinds of conspiracy theories. I haven't traveled as widely as I would have liked to, but when I have traveled, I've met different people, I've met different cultures, and guess what? They don't have three heads. They're not going to bite you. They're really nice people. They're different. They're different, but you learn something about them. Maybe they learn something about you, and in doing so, you end up learning more about yourself.
I agree with that, and I'm going to talk about a place that you and I have been to, and we talked this on the side. Singapore.
I love Singapore. If I was independently wealthy, we'd be doing the show from Singapore. At least my part of it would be.
I would take this podcast right on the Raffles Hotel that has been seen, the infinity pool that was made popular by Crazy Rich Asians. And I actually discussed this, that I think that movie, and we're going to talk about even the economy, that movie, Crazy Rich Asians, because most of it was filmed in Singapore, Malaysia, since then, their tourism has boomed. They want people to come to their country. And, you and I rave about Singapore, the safety, the food. It's the most disciplined country I've ever been to.
Oh, yeah. Very, very orderly.
Yeah. I mean, New Yorkers, for those who are listening, I would just say, even in America, please do not litter in Singapore. You will wind up in jail.
Which brings up another good point. When you travel, know the local laws. You get people who think, well, I'm a visitor here, I can do what I feel like. No, know your local laws. Respect the culture. Respect the monuments, which there were some people from Canada went to Thailand and wound up behind bars for a little while, just because they defaced a monument. Like don't be an idiot when you travel.
It's true. Like, if you go to a temple in Thailand or anywhere in Southeast Asia, you have to give respect. You have to take off your shoes. Some of them require that, you can't wear shorts. The same if you go to a Duomo in Italy, that you have to be properly dressed out of respect, that it's a sacred place. And you have to, pay your respects, dress properly, don't yell, don't shout.
Yeah. Yeah, like you say, just be respectful. Mm-hmm. Be respectful. You ever wonder, did you like top 10 lists?
I love I've done so many top 10 lists. Let's do a top 10 list now.
I've got a good one for you. What do you think travelers complain about? Their number one complaints.
Oh, that's a good question. I'm going to try to think about what does, I'll say weather.
No.
Oh no.
I'll start at number 10. There was a
Okay.
talk show host. I think that's how he did it.
Okay, yes. You could be your own
The-
Ryan Seacrest, Tom.
okay. Drunk or belligerent passengers.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, that's one of the most, there's a lot of them on the plane.
Yes. Airline related again. Rookie travelers at TSA security.
Oh, that's one of the things when they don't read the regulations. I have to take off my shoes, or, oh, why are you taking my moisturizer? Read how many ounces. It's 5.0. That doesn't meet
All the rules.
all the rules. Yes.
Number 7, seatmates on airlines who talk to you. Now, it generally doesn't bother me, but some people, they just want to travel in silence.
Oh yes, yes. I agree with that. I'm one of those, and I'm a chatter, but when I'm on the plane, I want to watch my television or my movies.
Yeah. Number 6, people who talk loudly on their cell phones. Yeah,
I'm
can you
guilty
hear
of
me?
that.
Can you hear me?
I'm very guilty of that, and I will share an experience of one in Korea. I was calling my sister, and she said, "We're not in New York City. We are not riding the MTA. Do you see anybody raising their voice here in Seoul?"
Use your inside voice.
Yes.
What was that one? That was number 6. Number 5, snoring passengers.
Oh yes, those are a pain in the butt. I'll tell you, I took an overnight a red eye flight from Las Vegas to back to New York. Sat next to a guy, and he snored all the way for 5 hours.
People cutting in lines during boarding.
I don't experience that. Although if you fly Southwest Airlines, because they have the whole system of like, it's a first come, first serve. That's how they operate. That's why it's cheap, and that's why it's so popular. That's their, that's their marketing strategy. But I do see that because I did fly Southwest Airlines last year on a layover to from Nashville, and I saw people are just trying to get that first, that seat near the door.
Yeah, well, you don't get off that much quicker, but
yeah.
Road construction.
That could happen. Does that happen? I'm wondering if you're driving along Canada, the scenic, is it the Canada, the Trans
Canada Highway? Yeah, there's a little bit of road construction here and there. It's more in the city. Mm-hmm. We always say in Edmonton, where I live, we have 2 seasons, winter and construction. But because of the long winters up here, there's a lot of construction in the summertime. Not so much, like I say, out on the highways, but certainly in the cities. What else have we got here? Dirty hotel rooms.
Oh yes, that's a peeve. I've actually experienced that when I went to San Francisco, and the room that and this is why I got yelled at, and my sister, is that she yelled at me and said, "We are not budget travelers anymore. We need to pay. It's better to pay more because of this dirty." It smelled like cigarettes. Basically, it was like a 3-star hotel on Union in the heart of Union Square in San Francisco. It's a good neighborhood, but the hotel in itself was just not pleasant. Well, the room that we stayed in.
Number 2 is price gouging.
Price gouging. I'll go a little bit. What is price?
Well, price gouging. They're charging exorbitant fees. They keep adding on fees.
That's why you don't book through a third party.
Yeah. You get what you pay for.
Yes.
And if it's free, that's probably what it's worth.
And the
Num-
top one, or
Number one thing that people gripe about when they travel is flight delays.
I would agree. I haven't actually experienced that lately, but I've seen it on the news that flights are being delayed, maybe 2, 3, or maybe, 5 hours that it's landed. Did I experience? Oh, wait, I did only experience it once when I went to Boston, but the flight from New York to Boston is about an hour and 20. It was delayed, I think, 2 hours, but because of that, thank you, JetBlue. You gave me a voucher.
So that's the top 10 things that travelers gripe about.
Yes, and those are good things to know, and you kind of have to, kind of analyze yourself as a traveler. Do I get annoyed about these things? But some of those things, those are just those mishaps. They're just actually part of it.
Yeah, some things happen, but
Some things happen, right?
They do make a case for how can I be a thoughtful traveler.
And that's good. You gave me an idea for our next topic, how to be a thoughtful traveler. And, this is why I love having you on, is because my thinking cap always comes up, with all these ideas, because, you bring up so much, you bring up a lot of ideas, but I think that goes with the 50 years of media experience that you've had on radio.
Well, yeah, media is what you do when you have no other marketable skills.
Last question, Tom.
Yes.
I'm gonna say, yeah. You had mentioned that you and your wife are going to Philippines next year, but what are your travel plans for this year?
Probably it'll just be domestic travel this year, mostly because she doesn't have a whole lot of time off. My time is a lot more flexible. When you get to be an old guy like me, you can kind of freelance a little bit and decide, well, I'm not going to work the next few weeks.
I wish I had that life now. No.
But
I have 20 more years to go.
But it'll probably just be some short domestic trips. She's got some family that has just emigrated from the Philippines to Canada here, so we'll probably be taking them around some of the touristy spots in Alberta. I don't know whether we'll get a chance to venture to British Columbia this year, but perhaps we might do that as well.
And I've been wanting to go to Alberta for because of the Canadian Rockies, Banff, Jasper National Park.
Oh, you're always welcome here.
Yeah, I mean, my friend just recently moved from Toronto to Calgary, and I did tell her, I was like, please do me a favor, do not get pregnant, because we are going to go to Banff next year.
And Banff is only about an hour away from Calgary, so and hopefully soon they will figure out some kind of public transportation, because that highway is just packed. There's just no more room for cars in Banff. There's just so much tourism. But if they had a train or even an efficient bus service between Banff and Calgary, it'd be kind of like a park and ride. Because a lot of areas like Moline Lake, you don't park anywhere near close. There's a spot where you can park, and then you hop on a shuttle bus that will actually take you there. But
I will make sure, and I will let you know when I will hit Alberta.
Yes, because we're only about 2.5 hours north of Calgary. Like I said, you're always welcome here. One caveat, though, do not come here in December, January, because it's cold. You'll hate it. And lots of snow. But
the
summertime.
I actually want to experience the cold. And I even said that I have a friend who actually, he's a minister of the gospel. He's based in Manitoba. And I said, I actually want to go there in the winter because I want to see polar bears.
Okay, well, you have to go north of where he would be, because that's way up north in a place called Churchill.
Churchill, yes.
And they actually have polar bear patrols, because these critters do wander into town, and polar bears are very, very dangerous. They eat people.
And I think you said this also in the podcast. I think you had mentioned elk too. They're dangerous as well too. So it's not something that you actually get out of your car and pet.
Well, yeah, elk and buffalo and stuff. If you see them on the road, keep your distance, take your picture, but don't go up to them. This isn't Walt Disney, you know? They're wild animals, and wild animals are wild.
Or like a petting zoo, like you could pet alpacas and what else? You could feed chickens, but
but a national park is not a petting zoo. Good point. But every year there are people who, hey, I want to stand by the grizzly. Let me get that selfie. And
oh, the world of selfies too. Selfie here, especially Filipinos. Selfie here, selfie there. You know, you could be in the mall. Selfie, selfie, selfie. The bathroom, selfie, selfie, selfie. Bathroom in Alberta, bathroom in British Columbia, bathroom in the Philippines, selfie, selfie, selfie. Well, thank you, Tom, for coming on. And it was a pleasure to have you on again, and I'll have you on next time. And
it's always a pleasure to be here. I thank you again for the opportunity, Tennie.
Oh, excuse me. Let me get some water here.
Got to keep my cup of tea handy.
Well, thank you to our audience. Despite, I'm a little bit.
I got her all choked up.
Only when I talk to you, Tom. Well, I'll keep it short here. If you have any travel ideas, hit me up, or you can hit up TravelWise International, iTravelWise.com. Smart People TravelWise airs every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 12 noon Pacific. I'm Tennie Sumague. Catch you all later. And I'm going to cough this out. Take care.